Raven, the talk show maven. And I love this. So I met Raven through a woman that I really, really respect. And I got to see that Raven has Roku TV. She's supporting people so that they can have professional shows on her platform, because she has a platform that's right on Roku TV and Fire Stick. And so I bet with your podcast, or you're looking for doing this stuff, you will want to connect with Raven. And we've partnered together because all the Fresh Inspiration shows, we are in that umbrella with her where we get support. So where our podcasts go, and then also where our professionally edited TV show, it goes, and it's all under Raven International. So I love it. My friend, thank you for being here today. And I love you in the red.
Fresh inspiration. Fresh inspiration. Fresh inspiration. Fresh inspiration.
Possibilities for people that are living in their passion and they want to get their word out there, their ways that they can play with media at different levels. So
The exciting thing is there's lots of ways to play with media these days. And the important thing is to dive in, because we're all been going through this pandemic starting, about a year now. And so for those people that don't use the advantages of media so they can stay relevant, so they and their business and their products and services can stay out there, they may not have a business. I mean, that's just it, because there are so many businesses that are kind of, hanging on the edge. And then there's those of us that are thriving, like you, Rhonda. I know I am, and a lot of my clients are. And it's only because we're doing things that others won't, so we can, have our life and business tomorrow that others can't. And that's simply, we understand the power of podcasting, broadcasting, and the media. And we're leveraging from that to get the exposure that we deserve and to keep us relevant. We got to stay relevant. There's no way around it, especially now.
the relevancy is part of the building influence, and the way to build the influence is that you get to really share everything that you really care about, and how you're doing transformation in this world. So when you're starting, Raven, when you were younger, I know that you really knew that this space was available for you to be in the media and be the Raven talk show maven. But I do know that there's some areas you had to work on before you really believed in yourself. Could you share a story this morning so people can really see themselves?
Yeah,
For everyone.
Right. Well, as you know, Rhonda, from our last little chat, 15 minutes that we had together, the idea of me being on radio started at 13. I think I started, really understanding that was my place in the world by the time I hit 16. And I used to sneak to the neighborhood radio station somewhere between 15 and 16 years old. It was WJMO in Cleveland, Ohio. And I was just fascinated at them spinning records and taking calls. And to be honest, I was fascinated because people could hear them. At that time, I thought people all over the world could hear them. And why that meant so much to me and why I was so fascinated is because as a kid, I felt much like Casper the Friendly Ghost, if any of you can remember that. I felt dismissed. I felt like the person that always wanted to be in the in crowd, and everybody's like, oh, okay, felt unheard. I felt dismissed. I felt, just almost like invisible. And it made me, it made the real outward person go within, and I think a lot has happened to all of us in our childhood that took the extrovert we were, and turned us into an introvert because somebody said you couldn't do this and you knew that you wanted to do it. it was your dream because someone, didn't take time to listen to you, to hear you, to pay attention to you. And we either became extroverts or either we put that energy into doing destructive things. I know I did. I was constantly in fights and doing anything that I could do to get the attention that I so desperately needed. And my mom and dad, they owned a chain of restaurants. So they were very successful at that time, for blacks or African Americans to have one business, let alone three. They had three restaurants in Cleveland, Ohio. And they didn't mean, I don't feel like they meant to dismiss us, but they were always busy with the restaurants. And that was during the rioting times. And I remember police knocking at our door and saying, you guys' restaurant was broke in during the riots and stuff. So they had a lot on their plate. But as a child, you don't see that, right? You don't see that kind of stuff till we get older. So my comfort zone and where I did feel like I had a place was at the radio station. And I was the little pesty kid. Oh, here she comes again. But because they knew of my parents, they didn't know them, but they knew of them and they knew of their restaurants. They were very respectful for me and looked out for me. And they would just let me be the kid to hang around, get them water and different stuff like that. And then, I moved up to being a junior disc jockey, and I used to have my own show. I say, I'm Raven Blair, and I'm on the air. And I remember one time my mother was in the restaurant working, and one of her customers said, isn't that your daughter on the radio? OMG. My mother came down to that radio station, and back then it was okay to use the belt, and she whipped my butt all the way home. I kid you not. But long story short, I loved radio, even though I was spinning records, and I felt heard. I didn't feel unheard. I didn't feel dismissed. They really thought it was kind of cute that this little kid, I was a pest, but they knew that I had the love for the radio. But like most adults, our big dreams, we have this huge dream circle, Rhonda, and then it shrinks, right? It shrinks from all the what I call life happenings in the world. And then the little dismissed, kind of sort of emotionally abused, because there was a little bit of that in our family too, um, became the big girl that felt dismissed or emotionally abused and had low self-esteem, and then it became the big adult that felt that way. You know what I'm saying? Because we are truly a product of our product until we change that direction, right? And so I think it's 55 years old. I was 55 years old, making $10 an hour, working 20 hours a week. And that was the time mother went into the hospital to have heart surgery. And we thought it would be a week. She ended up being in ICU unit for 3 weeks. And I was in a chapel praying, and I got the message, I believe, from God telling me, your mom's going to be okay, but you're going to have to really do something different because she's going to need you like she never needed you before. And the instructions were very clear, very clear. I remembered it just as good today. You need to step up, show up, and grow up. You need to step up and be the daughter that she raised you to be. I was raised in an entrepreneur family. I went to the best schools, wore the best clothes, lived in the suburbs. So they set me up for success. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then show up. She's going to be okay. She's going to need you like she never did before, but you're going to have to show up in a big way, because at $10 an hour, working 20 hours a week, you can't help yourself, let alone help your mom. And then grow up. Oh, that's the one that I tell my clients that hit me in the heart and the gut. Grow up and accept the responsibility as to why, with all those things that they've done to set you up, why are you making $10 an hour, working 20 hours a week at the age of 55? Where'd that come from?
Yeah.
Where did that come from? You were raised in an entrepreneur family. You know what I'm saying? You were raised and with the best tools. But it was because of the decisions I made during the time I left home, that took me off track somehow. And so I always tell people, to be honest, I believe my why was never big enough for myself. I believe that I felt so beat down in life and blamed everything and everybody but me. Okay. I've, just so emotionally distraught. Just felt, like, no, as long as I'm alive and I'm not hurting anybody, nobody's hurting me, I'm just gonna settle. How many of us have ever felt, I'm just going to settle? Life's not bad. The other person has it worse than me. So I'm going to settle. And I really didn't have any dreams and stuff. But seeing mother with the tubes around her, a lady that walked in beautiful, looking like Lena Horne. And then in days, you could see her bones, and she's got these tubes around and she did not even look like my mom. And it got me to thinking, I wonder if, what is mom thinking about right now? I wonder if anything was to happen to her, would she be okay with that? Would she feel like I lived my best life? And did she, or did she live her life for my dad and myself and my daughter and my siblings? And then that's when I got on a phone call because I lived there for 3 weeks in the ICU unit. And I got on a call by Alex Mendozian called Teleseminar Secrets because we had just brought me the course on a payment plan a few days before mother went in the hospital. And Alex did these calls on Monday night. So it was one Monday night I jumped on there and I heard him say that the quickest way to become an expert is to interview experts. And that there was this real cool thing called podcasting, and you didn't need an FCC license. All you had to do was get on a free conference call, and interview people that were experts, celebrities, and influencers in their niche. And if you did that, well, you would become an expert and an influencer and the celebrity in your niche simply by asking a question, zip it. Ask the next question, zip it. Ask the next question, zip it. And then I tell people my 13 or 16-year-old Raven dream found me at the hospital because a light bulb went out and I immediately grabbed a piece of paper. I drew it down, a line down the middle, like we used to in school. And on one side, I put, what do I need to do to start a podcast? On the other side, I put, where do I begin? And I just brain dump. I ran around the hospital and said, I'm going to start a radio show. It's going to be called Women Power. It's going to be for baby boomer women like me. And because I lived there, in the ICU unit, when mother went to sleep, I would work on my show. And so the nurses said, when the doctors and the head nurses leave, you can come behind our desk in that little room and you can stay in there but you have to be out by 6 the next morning and do your research instead of sharing one computer in this ICU unit waiting room with other families. And that's what I did. And that was February 6, 2006. I launched my first show from the kitchen table, April 23rd, 2006, at the age of 55.
Oh boy, Raven, so many wonderful things. What I'm hearing in your story blesses this community. And okay, so what I wanted to ask you is, you know, so when you were 13, 14, 16, you knew that you wanted to do this, but you still didn't, there's a space, you're still playing with the space, being closed off that this could really happen for you.
Yeah.
And what I see is when you're in the hospital, now you're receiving, now you're saying, okay, I want to do this. And I really feel like this is fueling the Fresh Inspiration Show community because we have blockers. All of a sudden, you're open and receiving, and we have people in the hospital asking you, do you want to come over here? We're going to support you. And so that you have a computer and you can do your work. And all of a sudden there's this flow that you thought you didn't have the support for, you didn't know this was going to happen. And now all of a sudden you say, I'm going to do this. So what I hear in this story is it's your time. When are you going to decide? It's
Yeah,
your time.
decisions, and it's your time. And I will also say enthusiasm feeds enthusiasm. I
Yeah.
mean, there was a whole waiting room full of people. But here, out of all the people worried and crying, and so many of those people we got to know, and their sadly their families didn't make it. So don't. It wasn't. It was me pushing through all that. There were times we would go to lunch and our phones would ring, our cell phones would ring, and they were like, "We got to rush your mother back through surgery." So this was a very difficult time. It was a lot of ups and downs, but something in my gut kept telling me, "Keep going, keep going, keep going." Keep going. She's going to be okay. She's going to be different, which she was. She ended up being in the hospital in ICU for 3 weeks and in the hospital for 6 months. And for 3 weeks, I lived there, and my sister in the ICU ward. We just slept in the chairs and covers to make sure she'd be okay. And then after that, we were there 3.5 days, and then we would switch out and be 3.5 days. So we were with her all the time. And so the staff got to know us. You know what I'm saying? They gave us food, the whole thing. So they got to know us and watch, and they got to see me. Now, here's an interesting thing. My sister and I go through the same experience. There was two computers in the waiting room in the ICU ward. She'd be on one computer. You could only be there like 10 minutes or something. And she'd be on that computer Googling Beyonce songs. She used to love to watch the videos and stuff. I'd be on the other computer across the hall until I could go behind the desk, Googling how to do a podcast, how to do an interview, how do you get started. So you got two people in the same situation, two different directions. You see what I'm saying? And we get in fights. Say, well, I'm tired of hearing about this show thing. We don't even know mama's going to make it. And all you're talking about is the show, show, show. And I kept saying, it's not just for me, it's to change the whole family. Because my sister was 2 years older than me. She was 57. And she was making less than I was making. And we were both always constantly going back to my mother, who was the matriarch, even though we were married, to borrow money and to borrow this and that. So that's why I was getting a clear message. It's time for you to step up, show up, and grow up, right? And so two people going through the same thing. And how often does that happen, right?
Yeah.
Two people have the same idea, one goes on to invent it, the other doesn't. You know what I'm saying? In 2018, I invented hat wraps. I love to wear hat wraps, right? And my husband and I would go shopping for hats all the time. I used to take trips to conferences and speak, and I carried 10 hats in a suitcase. And people were like, "Hi." Every time I would go, if there was 3 or 4 days I'm changing hats, they're like, "How do you carry all these hats?" And so one day I had a dream about coming up with an idea that I could carry 1 or 2 hats and change them out. So I came up and created Raven's hat wraps. Now somebody else was probably doing that at the same time, right? Who's going to make the difference? We immediately put in a patent for it, and this is it.
Woo-hoo!
And see, and I just carry these little things, and this is an old hat that most people would throw away. See? So there you go, and I carry a zipper bag full of these. Here's another one that's reversible.
Raven,
So
I'm just learning all this stuff about you, Miss Creativity.
Yeah, and we can put one of our hat wraps bands around it.
Oh, dynamite.
You see what I'm saying? So I'm just one that takes action and follow my gut, and I'm okay with failing forward. And I don't keep my dream to myself. I like to share it out. And then when you share it out with enthusiasm, other people want to rally around you, right?
Yeah.
And say, "Oh, how can I support you?" And that's how it was with the radio. And that's how it's been with the hat wraps. That's how it's been with my Amazing Women and Men of Power company, because the show I launched from the hospital, or I should say created from the hospital and launched on April 23rd of 2006, was Women Power. Now Women Power has become Amazing Women and Men of Power podcast and radio network. And then we have the Raven International TV network. And now we just created 2 agencies, as you know, Rhonda, Profitable Podcaster Agency and Beyond the Interview Agency. So all that together has now took everything to Raven International Broadcast Media Empire. But it all started with that one conference call I heard. where Alex says the quickest way to become an expert is to interview experts. And that lit up the 13 or 14 or 15, 16-year-old Raven's dream.
So I'm hearing, shout it out what your passion is, so that you are so that the energy comes back and forth, that you're out there. And so with your platform that you have and the things that you have going on, what are you seeing with the possibilities? Because I get to be in your space and help this show get out in a bigger way. What are you seeing that's been happening with all the new stuff you're doing and what you have been doing over the years, that you're seeing people are catapulting and moving their business forward, building influence because they get to interview others, which that's how we
Yeah.
learn so fast.
Yeah, well, one thing for sure is it's helped myself and my clients come from out of the shadows into the spotlight. They no longer feel like the best kept secret in their niche. Remember, I started saying how as a kid I felt dismissed, unheard, and overlooked. Then as I got to be an adult, I continued to have those same feelings. And I continued to see people, that I knew that we started out at the same time, they were flourishing and I just seemed to be there. And then I realized for things to change, I must change. And if it's, remember in grade school, there used to be this mantra, if it's meant to be, it's up to what? Me, you, us. And I had to take control. I always wanted to be on the magazine, so I started Amazing Women magazine and put me and my husband, my fourth husband, ladies skip the third, go straight to the fourth. That's that's the deal. So I put us on the cover. I wanted to be part of big things, and I got tired of people giving me waiting for people to give me permission to achieve it, and I learned how to just take what my dreams and visions were and to create it, because we all have that creativity in us. It's just that what are we going to do with it? Are we going to just let it sit and settle, simmer? I meant, sit and simmer, and it'd be something that we'd be thinking about for the rest of our lives. Or are we going to just not worry about dotting the i's and crossing the t's? Doesn't mean don't have any structure, but put something together. Put your 5-step system, your 9-step system, your 7-step system, blueprint, formula, process together, and that's proven, meaning you've done it.
Yeah.
Put it together and then show others how to do it and make it happen faster rather than slower. And I believe enthusiasm and energy, and you just speaking what you want, putting it out there in the universe, attracting it. These are things I didn't believe in always. I used to kind of think it was woo woo,
Yeah.
but it's all making that mindset shift. And I feel like we should shout out what we want. And you never know who is, what is that? What is that? We're all separated by a third degree. What is, you know what I'm saying? There's
Oh yeah,
something,
yeah.
I can't think of it. I see she's
Small,
nodding her head. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah.
yeah, it's a small world. Like
Yeah. So just putting it out there in the universe, somebody may say that may be that person's best friend.
Yeah.
Or, that's how I met JB Hill, Napoleon Hill's grandson. I put it out there that I wanted to interview somebody that was connected to Dr. JB Hill. Napoleon Hill. And someone wrote me and said, I heard you mention on your show that one of your interviews you love to do is interview Napoleon Hill. And she said, my aunt, she works with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, and she's friends with Dr. JB Hill. And that's how I was able to get that interview. Same thing with Earl Nightingale. I put it out there. I'm looking for someone that's related, and they introduced me to his widow, who's still living, because they were 30 years apart when she married him, and we're really good friends, Diana Nightingale. So
Yeah.
you,
Raven,
who knows?
I used to say out loud, "Oh yeah, I'm not gonna say anything or put my name out there for being able to win a prize," because like I put the windows up right away, but I also put blinders on them that I would never win anything, so I'm not even gonna try. And so when I started doing this business, I kept doing stuff over and over and working really hard, but it wasn't going anywhere because I kept telling myself, oh, the same thing over and over in that recording. And I
Mm.
got real. And so the first podcast that I did, I had somebody that, one of my really good friends that lives in Sweden. So we would meet up and we would talk to people all over the world. And I knew that that is where I was building influence, but it was like a mastermind too. So you're hearing from all these people and all these different ideas. So I can see how that levels you up. But then, so going in and doing these things, we already know that we want to be interviewing, we want to be talking to people so that we start building that influence. To be able
Mhm.
to get in and start doing things, are we going to put some links maybe after the show to make sure people know how to connect with you so that they know?
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, I love to include the Amazing Women and Men of Power podcast show that we've been blessed to win. You know, I don't know, maybe at least 3 awards on that show. My longest show. I kind of went on a hiatus during the pandemic because I wanted to focus on getting this one agency created to help podcasters and broadcasters make money, and it ended up being that we needed agencies, one to show podcasters and broadcasters our monetize your guest system and formula to make money. And then I said, oh my goodness, well, if I'm going to teach them how to turn their free clients into paid clients by offering them media services, why have them go out and try to find the connections to how these people can get these sources? Let's build beyond the interview agency where they can take their guests beyond that initial interview and make sure they're in press releases, put an ad, full page ad in Entrepreneur, Fortune, or Forbes magazine. Then take their collection of interviews and create, if they have enough videos, create their own channel in their own branding and give them a channel on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, or turn their current podcast into a radio show and podcast, and put them in books and stuff. So that's the beyond the interview agency. So I've been so focused on that. That's the main thing I'm focusing on. I'm not doing any private consulting anymore right now. So
Mhm.
if anyone wants to get in contact with me, the best thing to do is to email me, talkshowmaven@gmail.com, and put on there, curious, I mean, serious, not curious, because
They could be curious too.
yeah, no, I want them to be serious, but not curious. Serious meaning serious to make a move, serious in committing to the time and investment it will take. That's not the same as saying, yes, Raven, I want your service because you haven't heard about it. But I'm just narrowing it down because I get so many emails to speaking only with those people that know that they're coming there to make a decision at the end of the day, and they're serious about wanting to move forward. You know. But yeah, so I look forward to talking to anybody. And of course, we love for you to listen to Amazing Women and Men of Power. And we're also looking for guests. So if you're a perfect match, who knows, we might be able to put you on the show. But yeah.
I love your space, Raven. You have so many resources for people to really see themselves in your story and then the resources of what you have on your platforms. I love that you're really narrowing things down. So the community, we have a lot of entrepreneurs here. And I love, Raven, how you showed up and said, okay, you may be curious, but let's not, I want serious. And
Yeah.
that's a
Oh, yeah.
wonderful.
You learn that when you get enough appointments and you end up getting a lot of people to say at the end, oh, well, I didn't think that it was going to cost anything. I just thought I could sit up here and spend 30 minutes with you and pick your brain. No, no brain picking. Those days are over. And I recommend anybody that's doing consulting to honor your time, and, you know, don't let people take advantage of you and don't feel bad about it. Don't feel bad. It's not being rude. I have things sometimes I never like anybody to leave feeling disappointed. So even if they don't really qualify for an appointment, I've got, free tools, lots of free tools that I'm happy to gift them with, to give them something,
Yeah.
a book, or in fact, I would love to give everyone listening that has ever thought about doing a podcast, or maybe you have a podcast and you're not quite sure, am I doing things right? I have a tool, a free gift. It's called the interview toolkit for talk show hosts, and it has up to 25 questions you can take and recreate to fit your niche. It has my talk show magic book in there. It has our icon interview formula that teaches you how to interview up and go for those top interviews, and even a sponsor script that you can start off trying to get sponsors. So that's why we call it the interview toolkit. And you can get it by texting 63975, 63975. And in one word, no spaces, no caps, in the message of the text, put interview toolkit, and that'll lead you right there for your free.
Thank you so much, Raven.
You're welcome.
We're very busy people as we get out there, and I know that you have a fabulous day that you are venturing into. So I'm going to allow you to exit out with all this juicy information that you have sent us, and I'll make sure I get all those links in there for you. And so appreciate your space, my friend. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a blessed day, and please, please, please stay safe.